Chapter 11, Areas of Polygons. Today we're going to cover section 11.3, day 2. Find the area of each trapezoid. We're still going to use the formula where the area is the median times the height. So, looking for my median. To get the median, I really need to know what the bases are. I know one of the bases is 4, but I don't know the other. So, I notice if I draw in this extra line here, I'm making a 45, 45, 90 triangle. And if I go from this 3 square roots of 2 to my height, which would also be the same size as going to this piece out here, I just need to divide by the square root of 2, which gives me a height of 3. This extra piece up on the top is 3, which can get used to tell me that the entire base on the top is 7. So now when I go to my formula, the median, well, the median is just the average of my bases, and since the bases are 4 and 7, if I add them up and divide by 2, I'm getting 11 divided by 2, which at this time I'm just going to leave as 11 halves. I'm going to multiply that times my height, and I know that my height is right here that we figured out. My height is a 3. And if I multiply this across, I end up getting 33 halves. And you can either leave it as a fraction, or you could go to a mixed number or to a decimal. Next problem. Try to figure out here as well. And I don't know the base and the bottom, and I don't have the height. So I'm going to draw in to get my height. And I'm going to write my formula again. So I know it's my median times the height. So let's see, in a 30, 60, 90 triangle, the first thing I'm going to do is go from the 8 down to this bottom piece, which gets cut in half to be a 4. So I can imagine that off to the right there's also another little piece that's 4. I know the bottom middle is the same as the top, which is 8. So all the way across the bottom is a total of 16. So I now have my bases. Now for the height. Well, if I'm looking for my height, I can just go from 4 to this vertical piece, gets bigger by the square root of 3. So that should be 4 square roots of 3. Now I'm heading to my formula. So I'm going to take the median, which is the average of 8 and 16. So average of 8 and 16, add them up, divide by 2. So if I add them up, I get 24, and half of 24 is 12, times my height. And we had figured out that our height was 4 square roots of 3. And if I multiply, I get 48 square roots of 3. Number 3. I notice in this one, still doing area equals median times height, that I have my bases. What I don't have is the height. So how can I figure that out? Well, I notice I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle on the side. And if I look at this, I know that this middle piece here, if the top is 12, this middle piece in the bottom is 12. I have 2 equal-sized triangles on each side. The difference between 12 and the base of 30 is a difference of 18. And if I split it up equally between them, it must mean that each of these side pieces is 9. Now that I know that each of those is 9, I can look at my 30, 60, 90 triangle, and if I go from 9 to this piece right here, I need to divide by the square root of 3. So it's going to be 9 over the square root of 3. And I'll worry about simplifying that later. So going to my formula now. I know the area equals the median, and the median again is the average of my bases. So taking 30 and 12, adding them up to 42, half of that is 21. And I'm going to multiply that times my height, and the height I knew was 9 over the square root of 3. Well, now I'm going to worry about fixing this square root of 3 part. And I'm actually going to work on it right now before I even multiply by the 21. So if I fix this by multiplying by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3, I end up getting 21 times a 9 times a square root of 3 all over, and the denominator square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just going to give me a 3. And I can reduce 3 goes into 9 3 times. And now what's left is to take 21 times 3, which is 63. And then I still have a square root of 3. Right, so drawing myself an isosceles trapezoid. So not necessarily going to be drawn to scale. So the legs are 10, and the bases are 12 and 24. Well, one nice thing about this is I know when I'm going to my formula, median times height, I have both of the bases so I can get the median. What I don't have is the height. So if I try to figure out the height and realize that these are going to be the same on each side, if the entire base in the bottom is 24 and the base on the top was 12, 24 minus 12 is 12. Split up equally on the bottom means each of these sides happen to be 6. And now if I try to find the height over here, I can just use Pythagorean theorem. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. Or, if you recognize the Pythagorean triple, 3, 4, 5, and realize that if you double it, you're going to get 6, 8, 10. And since I have the 6 and the 10, it must mean that my height is just going to be 8. Now into my formula. So I know that I need the median. I need the average of 12 and 24. So if I add them up, I get 36. Half of 36 is going to be 18. And I'm just going to multiply that by the height that we just figured out. And we figured out that the height was an 8. And 18 times 8 is going to be 144.